So my name is Geert Heyninck. I'm responsible within Nokia for broadband networks, which is basically the fiber networks and the fiber equipment that we are selling from a Nokia perspective. We sort of shortened the title. So fiber for everything from vision to realization. So if you think about it, we as an operator or operators have been deploying fiber massively. Like the previous speaker already showed, if you look at Europe, there's a large percentage of the area which is being covered by fiber. But it's 50%, which is sort of Germany, which is not that much, but going up to above 90%. If you look from a worldwide perspective, we are around 50% already covered. Now, all those fiber networks, and when I say fiber, I'm talking about PON technology, all those fiber networks are basically being deployed with one sole purpose in mind. This is basically serving high-speed internet, broadband access towards residentials. And that's the business case which was laid down. Now, if you think about it, you have fiber traded. There's some issues, I guess, still with the battery. So there's fiber which is deeply penetrated in the streets, in the cities. So you have fiber everywhere. You have it in each and every corner. And it's very logical. You also have a lot of other opportunities in every corner. It's not just the residential play. You have small cells where you can do some backhaul capabilities. You have hospitals. You have schools. You have traffic lights. You have all those traffic cameras which needs to feed into a central place. So suddenly, there is a lot of different opportunity that you have to monetize your fiber. So not just residential, you can think about mobile, you can think about enterprise, and this is basically just, let's say, free additional money on top of your current deployment.
Now, if you do this based on the PON sort of technology, you do this at a low cost, with super low energy, and basically with faster time to market. Now, in order for this to happen, there are a couple of angles that we need to fulfill. First of all, obviously, we need to have the right capacity. And I will show that fiber has evolved so that capacity is available today. You need to have the right latency. You need to be able to have high reliability. If you really want to go to an Industry 4.0 or high-end enterprises, that reliability needs to be at par with traditionally counterpart Ethernet. You need to have a level of automation. The more devices that you attach to the network, the more you need to automate to make sure that you can operate your network seamlessly. And obviously, the green aspect remains very important. Now, this is about fiber for everything, and let me zoom in first into the feeds and speeds. So this is an animated thing, which is showing the evolution from 2023 towards 2025. As you have seen, the light blue is basically where XGS-PON, the 10 gig PON, is being deployed, let's say not predominantly, but it's being deployed in that country. The black is where XGS-PON is really being deployed predominantly, so more than 50%. And then the orange is where 35 gig is being deployed. And you have seen on this slide that there is quite a rapid evolution per page. Let me show a video of one of our customers who is basically the way they are going to advertise why you need that speed. That sometimes, or not sometimes, quite often operators are asking me, why do you need that high speed for residential play? Let's give the example and the answer that can be provided.
It's great too.
Kev's delivering the biggest pitch of his career. If he nails it, cha-ching! Zach Kev, Sunfire, two very different days. Slow Kev, it's down mode. Waiting. Yep, still waiting. Fast Kev, he's on an ultra-fast multi-gigabit fiber service powered by Nokia. Files downloaded, pitch delivered. Slow Kev, he's achieved, well, nothing. Fast Kev, he's already baked Greyla's cake. Showstopper. Next, Tokyo Gaming, training guitar, practicing his backhand, even tripping his bonsai. Meanwhile, Slow Kev, still stuck, poor bloke. Deep breath in. And now commit a minute. Even a ball to the face can't knock the spring out of his step. Fast Kev wins the pitch. Life's good. Slow Kev missed the deadline. Missed everything. Speed matters.
So let me elaborate a bit on why I feel that high-speed internet very high speeds, it's really essential. So for its better play. So not just for the enterprise. Then we'll go further about enterprise. So you probably all remember this one. This is the movie, I feel the need for speed. How does an operator traditionally measure his numbers? He does like 5 minutes, 50 minutes counters. He looks at all those counters. He then looks at the peak hour, the busy hour, or whatever is being called. He zooms in, and then he comes to the conclusion, the average speed that I need is between 10 megabits and 50 megabits. That's the way he calculates and measures basically speed. Well, frankly speaking, this is probably the right approach like 10, 15 years ago. Today, the behavior of consumers has changed dramatically. It is not really about the need for speed, but it's really about the need for peak nowadays, which are short-lived peaks where you really have massive amount of data which comes into your home rapidly. You enjoy that speed, but from an average perspective, the 10 to 50 megabits is probably still correct, but it's not really increasing the speed. So let me take you back to like 10, 15 years ago. When I was working, I had a laptop, I have a PowerPoint which is on the laptop. I click on the file of the laptop, and basically it opens almost instantaneously. What is the situation today? Situation today is those files are in the cloud. They are somewhere in the cloud. I click on the file and I'm waiting until this is sort of being downloaded on my PC. I make some adaptations, which is typically even worse because a lot of those connections are asymmetric. I do some adaptations, I save it, and again, I'm waiting until this file is being uploaded. What I want as a consumer is basically the same behavior I am used to as if it were on my laptop. Situation today is worse than it was 50 years ago. What is the additional speed that you have from a hard disk? This is around, 7 gigabits per second or more. So you can think in order to provide the same experience towards the end user, an operator should be offering similar speeds in order to mask the fact that the files are locally or whether they are in the cloud. Let me give you another example. 10, 15 years ago, games, when they were being distributed, they came with a DVD because everything fitted on the DVD. The DVD was massive capacity. Nowadays, we talk about something totally different. We talk about files of 250 gigabytes. So basically, this is so massive, it doesn't fit on the DVD. Experience today, if you have a gigabit connection, you need to wait more than half an hour before you could start enjoying the game. If you talk about 20 gigabit per second, you talk about few minutes. Again, the user experience, the user expectation has changed dramatically. The old rules of simply taking the average doesn't really apply anymore. It is different. I need a short-lived peak. I don't need the very high speed continuously, but the peak, that is really what makes a difference. Now, if we move towards enterprise, because I was talking about leveraging fiber, not just about the essentials, but also for other applications. This is sort of, let's say, the pyramid of the enterprises. So more than 90% of the enterprises are small or micro customers. And these are quite easy to be addressed by fiber deployment, by contact technology. And during the survey, we saw that around 8% of the operators are actually already delivering enterprise services towards them. Above that, you have medium enterprises and you have higher enterprises in the 1%. At this stage, we'll prove this and talk about this a bit further. At this stage, fiber technology has evolved into a way that it can serve all those different segments. Obviously, if you look at it from a speed perspective, micro small, this is GPON and TSPON. This is the most commonly deployed technologies out there today. So it's about no break from speed perspective. The next step is need at YESPON, web 5D-PON, 50 gig PON. So all those different technologies becomes available. By 2030, we will be adding like the 100 gig PON and 200 gig PON and all those sturdy versions will be there. This is talking about speeds. Speed is one component of the equation. It's an important component because you will need to provide wide speed towards the enterprise, but there's more to this. And the bigger the company, the more important the other elements are. This is about security. We talked about security as in the nuclear, but this is a bit more, let's say, digital, as well as resilience. So let me talk about the security for a moment. We all heard about quantum computing. And we know that there are schemes out there where you can basically sort of snoop, harvest the data as it is today. And later on, when quantum computing will be available, you can decode and you can use that technology. There are two axes which are important here. So one axis is about how important is the data still 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. How much will it change? For instance, my social security number will not change. My health records will not change. Probably my insurance policies will not change because this is something which is data which will be long-lived. On the other hand, me buying a smartphone, who cares 5 years down the road? So the longevity of the data is important to indicate what is the risk around the cloud care. The second thing is how long does equipment prevails and last in the network. So for instance, if you talk about banks, you are still using mainframes nowadays. So equipment stays a very long time in banks. Government, I believe, is sort of a similar scheme. I can give you another example. If you talk about cars and you think about connected cars, and this is quite novel, you can start thinking about, well, a car, you probably need to have a development time of 5 years. Then you're probably going to produce the car for not 7 years. And then when somebody bought the car, it's another 10 years for me to keep the car. That means that as a connected car, having this communication channel, it needs to be safe for, let's say, up till at least 2040. So this is long-lived. So very clearly, there are certain sectors which are at risk already, like insurance, like government. That talked about a guarantee which will have potential security risks moving forward. So again, important, providing this security and being able to cope with the post-quantum era, that's really going to be important to be forward. The other element is about resilience. And if you look at the fiber network, if you look at it from a year perspective, there is an outage of around 20 minutes from existing fiber networks. So this is public data. It's not necessarily our equipment, but this is industry average. Now, if you bring up and you start deploying 5G of a 6 nines available equipment, you are improving the situation and reducing the downtime from 20 minutes to 4 weeks. If you then add some analytics and looking at the fiber and how it's behaved, you are reducing this further to 2 or 3 minutes. And then if you provide capabilities like dual homing, in PON technology, this is called Type-C, then reduce this to less than 1 minute. Less than 1 minute, it's a part with point-to-point Ethernet, but it's at half of the cost. So again, a big opportunity to serve this at a lower price than you do with a point-to-point storage. So if you look at the different evolutions of PON, it's very clear that there are a lot of technologies out there. It's 10, 25, 50, 100 gig. And in our context, we see 10 and 25 gig predominantly into the residential space. And if you look 25, 50, and 100, we see this more like in an enterprise space. So really focusing on the high-end applications I was just talking about. So if you combine, let's say, this evolution of PON with the different speeds, and you combine this with the advancements on the resilience, which are available today, the 6 nines, and the being ready for the post-quantum era, we are basically setting ourselves up for a situation that fiber can be used for each and every service, given the fact that the fiber has been deployed in each and every port. Thank you. Open for questions.